If you have a scary story you want to hear on the channel, go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to send it my way. And of course, thank you. I used to work at a gas station in the middle of my town. And it's not relevant to the story, but I hated that job so much. It didn't pay worth a damn, the hours sucked, management was awful, and people were beyond disrespectful to you when they were there. But hey, that's retail, right? It was even worse 2 years ago, because around August, we were under a really bad heat wave and getting pelted with 100+ degree weather. On top of that, the AC at the station was struggling and would just sometimes not work. The hotter the day, the more likely it would stop working, and the station would get swelteringly hot. Thankfully, on those days, people wouldn't really come in, so I could just sit there behind the counter with a fan blowing on me, or stand in one of the soda coolers. I would have to keep an eye out for customers when I did that, but I really didn't care. It made it at least somewhat bearable. During this one afternoon, I was behind the counter, and I think I was pulling some product from a box to stock it, when I saw someone come in. I looked up to see an old man walk around. He had a full beard, was bald, and just kind of reminded me of a stereotypical old man. I was a bit confused though, since he was wearing a windbreaker jacket, and with how hot it was, he had to be dying in that thing. One point of note, I saw him out of the corner of my eyes, so I didn't technically see him walk in the store, but I saw him inside the store, which was a bit weird because I didn't recall the door chime going off. I said, "Hey, let me know if you need any help with anything," just trying to be nice, and then got back to my work. I looked up every once in a while to see if this guy needed help or if he was ready to check out. Every time I looked up, he was in a different spot in the store, but each time he would be looking over at me. Of course, this puts me in an awkward headspace. Either he's just a nice dude that wants to talk to me, or he's gonna be a creepy old man. I was hoping he was just lonely and wanted to talk, as some old people tend to be, because dealing with creepy old men was always a pain in the backside. Then I heard him shout out, "It's a hot day out today, huh?" I didn't look up. I could tell he wasn't at the counter, and I just said, "Yeah, it makes it even worse when the AC doesn't work." And he responds, "Yeah, I can imagine." And he goes back to silence, just looking around the station, and I continue pulling stuff out of a box. And then I hear him speak to me again. Out of nowhere, I hear this guy say, "I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me, Alice." I immediately stopped and looked up when I heard him say this, mostly because I didn't know how he knew my name. My name is Alice, but I didn't wear a name tag, and I never told customers my name. I had never seen this guy before, so him saying he was sorry that he wasn't there when I needed him was beyond confusing. So I looked up to ask him what he meant and who the hell he was, but much to my surprise, he wasn't there. He wasn't just not at the counter, he was completely gone from the store. The door hadn't opened, the chime didn't go off. There was no way he could have hidden behind a shelf, and he couldn't have gone into the back without me seeing him, and there was nowhere else for him to really go. I just stared out into the empty station, waiting for him to jump out of somewhere and say, "Gotcha!" or something like that. But that never happened. Eventually, my trance was broken by the door chime going off and my coworker coming in for his shift, complaining loudly about how hot it was in there. I asked if he saw an old man in the parking lot, and he said no, that it was dead out there. I just kind of nodded and said, "Okay," and decided that I had just encountered some kind of weird spirit that knew who I was, and moved on with my afternoon. It was truly bizarre, and I have no idea what that whole event was, what he wanted, why he said what he said, but it was what it was. I don't work there anymore, and I never had another experience like that, and by the time I quit, the AC still wasn't working right. This is just a scary thing that happened during the summer. I don't know exactly what this was, because I can't figure out what happened. It was Labor Day weekend, almost time to head back to school, but my family and I were in the mood for one last hurrah. So my mom invited my aunt, uncle, and cousin down for the weekend, and my other cousin was also having an end-of-summer cookout too, which meant everyone would have something to do while they were here. Everyone arrived Saturday, but the mood was slightly somber. My stepdad asked why, and my uncle told us that Princess Diana had just passed away. The adults talked about it for a little while. My family, although very patriotic and American, are huge fans of the royal family. You'll see why this is relevant later. Meanwhile, my cousin headed outside with our favorite Barbie dolls and some other toys, and we started playing and laughing. It wasn't long before they called us in for dinner, then, after a few more minutes outside, in for the night. We grabbed everything and headed in, only to hear my uncle talking about the weird nightmare he'd had a few days ago. He said that he'd went to sleep and woke up to everyone telling him that something bad was gonna happen. Get out. Something bad was going to happen, he needed to get out. Then, everyone's faces started melting. At the same time, some ladies came in and took his daughter away, and then he woke up. My aunt told him to cool it with those kind of stories in front of us kids, and my parents said, no, she'll be fine. After all, it was just a dream. I was, but for some reason, I kept thinking about it. And I still do now, especially after that night. It was now bedtime, and my parents gave us strict instructions that we were not to leave the bedroom unless we needed the bathroom, or if one of us was sick. She said the grown-ups were turning off all the lights and everybody was tired. None of your usual tricks, my mom had warned, mostly to my cousin. She could be pretty mischievous, and of course, I would follow. You guessed it, we got up in the middle of the night. We had a few cookies and a juice box, and next we ventured out to the swing set for about an hour, and then I shut the party down, because I knew everyone would get mad if we got caught. We quietly crept inside, and by my orders back to bed. Here's where it gets scary. At breakfast the next morning, my cousin starts ratting us both out. She couldn't help bragging about our little adventure last night, but she starts adding things that didn't happen. Like after the swing set, we walked down to my best friend's house to the gas station up the road from us. Then 2 women in a black car come up to us and shout my name. She said we tried to run, but they kept following, all while calling out to me. We finally stop and they ask us what the hell we're doing out this late without any adults. She told them I was sleepwalking and she was trying to find me, and they told her, my name is Bridget, and the other lady with me is Alicia, and we've got to take you home. She said the car was a black Suburban, and my uncle chokes out, that's the car I saw in my dreams. The room gets silent, because that was a detail he didn't tell a soul about. Until my mom asks me if this is true. I fess up to the cookies, the juice box, and the swing set, but I swore to her we never left the yard and went straight to bed as soon as we came in. My cousin cries out, no, remember? You wanted to show me that playground at that girl's house. I can prove it too, because you left your glow-in-the-dark star thingy outside. No, I didn't. It's still on the coffee table, I yell. No, it's not, my aunt says. I'm looking right now and your Starlight toy is nowhere to be found. It's too big to miss. I'm scared and angry by this point, but I'm not letting up, because I know we did not leave the yard, and I would never leave my star glass outside. It was more of a decoration than a toy. My uncle and stepdad walked to the backyard, and sure enough, there's my star, lying on the concrete. But that wasn't all. My pink jump rope is beside it, which I hadn't been able to find for months. I can't speak, and my cousin is blabbering on and on with more crap. And you know what else Bridget said? She played us a Spice Girls song and told us they're from England. And she asked us who else is from England. And of course we said the royal family, and then she asked us about the beautiful princess that went to go be with Jesus, and we said that her name was Diana. My jaw just drops, because it's almost like she believes this happened, but I know that it didn't. My mom suddenly grabs my arm, and I just know that I'm in serious trouble. I'm almost in tears, but she whispers in my ear, "Baby, I believe you. I checked around the house about 4 this morning because I had this bad feeling, and I saw your star on the coffee table. I also saw the boxes in the trash can. So I think someone's playing a big joke. Plus, I don't know a Bridget or Alicia, who drive a black Suburban, so calm down. You're not in trouble, just please don't ever go outside late at night again without one of us." I nod and walk back inside. Sadly, this doesn't end here, because that afternoon we see a black Suburban drive up and down our block and stop by our mailbox. And twice, my cousin points out Bridget, a middle-aged white woman with jet black hair, and Alicia, a 20-something with curly brown hair and a nose ring. They wave at us, and then toss a Spice Girls CD out the window and into our driveway. Then, after that day, we never see them again. But to this day, my cousin still sticks to her story. She even remembers the song Bridget played, which was "Say You'll Be There," and that the car smelled like cigarettes. But now, I believe her. I believe something happened that night. I believe my cousin went somewhere with somebody or several somebodies, but who? Was something or someone that looked like me able to lure her away from the house? And who were Bridget and Alicia? Were they angels watching out for her, or something much darker? Did a bunch of us jump timelines and everything just got jumbled together in one big mega glitch? And what about my uncle? Was this a warning of this weird mix-up? Too many questions and no answers. But at least we enjoyed the rest of the weekend. Especially that cookout. Just a heads up, this story, it may be triggering to some people, so you may want to add a warning to the beginning. Consider that your warning. A number of years ago, in the middle of the summer, my friend Matt and I decided that we wanted to go out and do some urban exploration. We hadn't done much that summer since it was hotter than Hades out there that year, and on this day the heat had finally broken some, so we wanted to get up and get out for at least a little while. We were both 16 and both of us had a lot of pent-up angst, so we wanted to let as much energy out as we could. And to let that energy out, we decided biking to an abandoned factory would be fun. We could check out the machinery, break a window or two. We were young and stupid, and I know we shouldn't have done that. And just mess around for a while. The factory that we wanted to check out had been closed for about a decade, and had sat completely void of any activity since it was closed. Other than other people that wanted to check it out, that is. We biked out to where it was, and immediately were taken aback by how messed up the building actually was. We hadn't been there yet. We'd only known where it was, and the walls were heavily damaged, the windows were all already smashed out, and there were spray paint tags all over the front. It was at least easy to get into the building. The side doors were all busted out, so there wasn't really any challenge there. When we got in, the air felt stale and stuffy. Kind of like an abandoned factory that had no working ventilation for around a decade. Because that's what it was. We were both kind of nervous at first, wondering if there would be someone in that building or something. I don't know why that was our first thought, other than we were just dumb kids. Matt called out asking if anyone else was there, to which no one replied. No surprise there. We wandered around the main hall to just sort of look around and see what we could find, but there wasn't really much there. I won't bore you with the details of our adventure around the empty spaces, because really not much happened. It wasn't until we started going around the administrative parts of the building that we found what this story is about. We were going around the offices, just checking out what furniture was still there, when we got to one that was decently sized, probably management style. I was checking out one of the desks, just looking in the drawers and whatnot, when I pulled one out and heard a thumping sound. I peeked into the drawer but didn't see anything in the back. I made a comment that there wasn't anything there that fell, and then Matt responded saying that it could have been something behind the drawer. I lifted the drawer and pulled it off the track, and sure enough, he was right. There, on the ground, was what looked like a small camera case, looking like it was behind the desk and had fallen to the floor. I reached back and grabbed it and unzipped it, and honestly, I wasn't sure what I was looking at. In the case, there were a few photographs, 5 to be exact. Matt and I looked through them, and after a few moments of figuring out what I was looking at, I started to feel sick. The photos were, and there's honestly no softer way to say this, of either a murder or of people celebrating a person that was murdered. There were a couple of photos of a person's corpse that was, again, there's no other way to say this, mutilated. And then the rest of the photos had a group of 3 guys looking like they were covered in blood, standing around said body, with their thumbs up and creepy grins on their faces. They looked insane, like they were completely out of their mind, which you would have to be if you were taking photos of yourself with a dead body and covered in blood. I asked Matt if I was seeing what I thought I was, and he confirmed what it was. We looked at the photos again, seeing if maybe they put their names on the back or something, but there wasn't any information on them, nor in the case. After a few silent moments of us just thinking that the pictures were messed up, I asked what we should do, and Matt said that we should just put it back in the desk, and forget they even existed. I actually agreed, and I zipped the case back up, tossed it back into the desk, and we decided that that was enough for both of us. We decided to end our adventure, and we decided to go home. Those images have honestly haunted me for a long time, and unfortunately they do randomly flash in my mind. Did we find someone's secret stash of photos they took after they murdered someone? Like some kind of disgusting trophy? Of course, there's the possibility that they weren't real, but they looked very real. And then why would someone keep fake murder scene photos like that? We never went back, and we never reported them, and unfortunately the factory was demolished not too long after this. So, surely someone else had to have found them, right? Either way, I try not to think about this too much, and would rather just forget it. But hopefully your audience thinks this is enjoyably creepy. Back when I was about 16, me and my 2 cousins were staying over at my grandma's for our summer vacation. My cousin, Dan, was about 14, and was really interested in ghosts and talking about how he once saw something hanging from the Black Bridge at night. This Black Bridge is an abandoned train bridge that's really high up from a creek below it. There was some background story about someone who had once hung themselves there. The words bloody death were also spray painted on the underside of it in a place that was hard to see. It was likely some teenagers having some fun long before our time. Anyway, we always thought it was an interesting story, and so, on a dark, foggy night, we mustered up the courage to go explore the spooky bridge. The cloud cover made it darker, so it was particularly creepy with the way the shadows from our flashlights were so sharp and animated. After some time, whispering about the drowning victim and the hanging man, we started to spook ourselves to the point that we both agreed that we should head back to the house. As we made our way back with the allegedly haunted bridge to our backs, we decided to take a quick look back to see if we were being followed by a ghost. The flashlight caught a reflection of eyes in the darkness from where we came. Looking back on it now, it was likely a raccoon. Obviously, that's not how we reacted at the time as we ran full throttle back to my grandma's house. Dan suggested that we make a Ouija board to see if we can talk to it. It was drawn on a big sheet of paper, and we used a shot glass to guide answers to our questions. We were whispering to make sure we didn't wake anyone up. As he explained the rules to me and carefully repeated that you should never play with a Ouija board if you don't believe in it, and you should never question it, like it's some kind of insults to the dead or demons or something. I'm guessing that was one of the rules told to him by whoever he learned about it from. He also said that if anything goes wrong, we'll need to destroy the Ouija board as soon as possible. I didn't know if these were actual rules for playing it, since I was never interested enough to learn about that stuff. It's important to note that we were playing it in the kitchen with visibility of the living room. We didn't have to look to know that our other cousin Bryson was on the couch, snoring loudly, especially for an 8-year-old kid. It was basically the middle of the night, maybe around 2 a.m. I should also mention that all the chairs happened to be pulled out around the table, even though there were only 2 of us playing. You'll see why I mention this shortly. At first we began asking questions like, is anybody there? And will you talk with us? And before long, the shot glass began to move under our gently combined fingers. I couldn't tell if he was moving it, and he actually asked me if I was moving it. I thought he might have asked me to make me think that it was totally legit. In the beginning, the answers were a bit weird and not really making sense, but after a while, the answers were coming through. Yes and no. Of course, those were common answers. I thought that I would mess with him a little and just disobey the rule about asking if the game is real or fake, just to see his reaction. With a whisper, I asked it, and Dan's eyes became very wide with the shocked look on his face. The shot glass started moving around faster and faster, and at first I thought he was doing it in response to what I'd asked. Suddenly, though, my 8-year-old cousin sleeping in the other room who could not possibly have heard our whispers sat up quite suddenly in a creepy and unnatural way, exactly like a possession scene from a movie. It gave me goosebumps. His eyes were still closed, and he replied to my question to the Ouija board in a loud, weird voice. He said, "We are sitting here now. We can play the game now." I think we could both feel our hair standing on end, as wide-eyed Dan grabbed our makeshift Ouija board and ran onto the porch, tearing it up as he went. We both went outside, too shocked to investigate any further. He was bent over with his hands on his knees and looked up at me saying, "That's why you should never question it." He was quite serious. Looking back on it, I can speculate that maybe it was just a wild coincidence that Bryson happened to sleepwalk at the exact moment and sit up really fast like that, and utter a sentence that just happened to be the perfect scary answer to my forbidden question, which he shouldn't have been able to hear. Also, it doesn't seem like something an 8-year-old could think up on the spot like that, especially when he was snoring and there was no way he could hear us. No matter how I look at it, it was a really creepy moment that I'll never forget. Were there actually ghosts or something sitting in the chairs, telling us they were now ready to play with us? Needless to say, we didn't do any more Ouija boards in that house. Ever again. It was the summer between high school and college when I got my first real job. Anything to get me out of the house and away from my parents and little sister. You know the feeling. It's that time in your life when you feel your independence coming on. The job didn't pay a lot, just a few dollars an hour, but not bad for a kid in the 70s. This job required that I patrol a 30-mile stretch of interstate and about 20 miles of secondary roads, removing the carcasses of dead animals killed in the roadway. I lived in the south, and it gets tremendously hot here in the summer, which makes any outdoor job oppressive. And that heat gets into everything, especially the carcasses. The flies, the ants, the bugs, the opossums, foxes, and the buzzards. The bottom line, you want to get there as soon as possible after death, and clean up everything and move on. I was given an ancient pickup truck with a 3-speed on the column and no radio, a hard hat, a reflective vest, and several masks. In the truck bed was a 55-gallon drum in which I kept a shovel, a hoe, a rake, and several buckets. I even had one of those large, wide shovels that people up north use to remove snow. At the end of the day, you get to empty out the back of the truck and relive that day's horrors all over again, and then wash out the truck bed for the next day. This job made eating your mother's homemade spaghetti dinners difficult, no matter how hard you tried to put that day's memories out of your mind. In the summer, there are a lot of tourists on the road. More traffic equals more dead animals. Most vehicles then did not have air conditioning, so you'd have the window down trying to get as much air as possible. If you didn't get to the scene soon enough, you could smell it when some distance away. Oh boy, could you smell it. I remember this particular week had been really bad. I'd picked up 6 deer, 4 opossums, 5 foxes, and even an armadillo. I don't remember how many dogs, cats, raccoons, or squirrels. I remember it was a Friday afternoon because I wanted to finish up and get to the weekend. I was on one of the secondary roads when I smelled a bad one coming. I hadn't driven far when I saw it. The carcass was mostly in the road with only part of it on the shoulder. It had been run over more than once. I think there are sometimes people who aim for things like that. I pulled off on the shoulder, kicked on my flashers, put on my hard hat, vest, and mask, and took the snow shovel from the back. As I approached, I saw something I will never forget. It made me nauseous. I ran to the shoulder of the road and was just able to get my mask off before I vomited. I saw the bottom half of a jaw. It was lying partly on the road and partly on the shoulder. And in that jaw were teeth, and in those teeth were fillings. So that, my friends, was a collection of some creepy summer stories. Don't really need scary stories to make summer scary. Summer is scary as it is. I say that because I absolutely abhor the heat. I hate the hot temperatures. I am a winter bird, if you will. Pun, I guess, intended. I have that northerner blood running through me. I prefer the cold temps. I can take the very cold temps easily. The hot temps just make me feel blah. They slow me down, make me feel sluggish, make me feel tired. I'm so tired in the summer. I hate the summer. I don't hate the summer. I strongly dislike the summer. I have anger against the summer. I hold a grudge against the summer. Brah, summer! Anyways, scary summer stories. Hopefully you all enjoyed them. I did. They're really good stories, good creepy stories. If you did, please do hit that like button. That would be tremendous of you. And if you're new to the channel and liked what you heard and want more content like this, hit the subscribe button as well. Maybe the bell icon next to it, telling me, that you want to see my content. Telling YouTube more so that you want to see my content. You can also leave me a comment down below the video, how you're handling summer, if you are at all. Are you as miserable as I am in the summer? Maybe, maybe not. What's your favorite thing to do in the summer? Give me that in the comments as well. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Oh yeah, I already said subscribe. Like, comments, join Patreon memberships, get early access to content like this. You can also do a super thanks, which is a tip to the channel, never expected, always appreciated. You can also submit your story at astheravendreams.com. And then finally, if you're tired of listening on YouTube, you can find my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, and anywhere else podcasts seem to exist. Yeah. That's about it. Hope that you remember. Well, let me. Hope that you're having a beautiful day. Hope you have a great week. Hope I see you again here very soon. But until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important, you are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And until next time, my friends, much love, and sleep well.